presidents, we have Inderpal Singh sir here with us, members of the executive committee, Rajesh ji, and all attendees for the day. We're so happy to have Dr. Atul Parvatiyar for one of the most sought after events of Bombay Management Association under the banner of what we call as Friday Fundamentals, wherein we invite eminent experts like Dr. Parvatiyar from different walks of life who've always been very graciously volunteered to address the members of BMA from all over the world as such. Dr. Parvatiyar will talk about driving customer-centric organizational transformation today. I'm so happy to introduce Dr. Parvatiyar, a colleague of mine from XLI days. Dr. Parvatiyar is a professor of marketing practice and director of Center for Sales and Customer Relationship Excellence at the Rawls College of Business, Texas Tech University. He's a fellow of Chartered Institute of Marketing and a fellow of this Direct Selling Educational Foundation. Dr. Parvatiyar is a highly cited author of many academic articles, and you'll find many of them on LinkedIn, and of course books, and is a recognized global thought leader in marketing and sustainability. His work has received more than 10,795 citations as per the Google Scholar. In addition to being a top academician, Dr. Atul has also been, has had entrepreneurial experience for more than 20 years as the founder and CEO of the Institute for Customer Relationship Management with offices in the US, UK, India, Malaysia, and Singapore. He is an experienced consultant on global strategies, CRM, and digital marketing. His clientele include many. Some of them, think organizations like Alliance Bank, Bank of America, Bose Corporation, Coca-Cola, and many organizations in India. Earlier, Dr. Parvatiyar taught at Emory University in Atlanta, where he won the MBA Teaching Award and was Associate Director of Center for Relationship Marketing. He's also taught as a visiting professor in countries like Austria, Dubai, India, of course, Norway, Spain, and Singapore, not to mention the BHU and XLRI Jamshedpur. Dr. Parvatiyar was honored with the Distinguished Alumnus Award by the Institute of Management Studies, Banaras Hindu University. We all know that businesses face disruptive challenges, not just because of COVID, but many other things happened in the past also. But the most important one has been the behavior of the customers. And I would say that successful organizations, big or small, are known for the ability to learn from the customer's insight, make necessary transformation and changes, and continue engaging with these empowered customers. This is what separates the leaders from the laggards. But why are many organizations terrible at it, and how can they do it better? We've seen many such examples in India where the organizations just go down the drain because they fail to engage the customers. What should these entities do with the ever-changing behavior of customers? And what must be done to keep reinventing and engage customers for a long, long haul? Let's get enlightened by Dr. Parvatiyar, who's done an extensive amount of work in this particular area, and learn from him as to what the organizations must do to make themselves absolutely customer-centric. So over to you, Dr. Parvatiyar, without taking too much of time. We are really waiting to listen to you. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bigyan Verma. It's always a pleasure to share any forum with you. We have a long history. As you rightly said, we worked together more than 30, 35 years ago. And it's always a joy to work with you. I still remember the days when we were, the two of us in XLRI, as a faculty member working till the institute library was closed at midnight, every day almost. So that used to be a regular routine, and you have always excelled in various things. So thank you for having me today as one of the speakers. And thank you, Mr. Rajesh Sharma, and Mr. Inderpalji, and Dr. Anjana Agrawal, and all others. I hope that you will find some of the things that I'm going to discuss useful to you. I'm not going to talk any rocket science. Probably you know most of the things, but I'll try and kind of talk a little bit about customer centricity. So let me share my screen if I may. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we can see.
Thank you. So the primary topic I'm going to talk about is how to drive customer-centric organizational transformation. But while I discuss this, I'm going to talk a little bit about also the entire concept of customer centricity, as well as the fact that we are dealing not only with customers today, we are dealing with customer networks. I'll explain that a little bit more. And kind of identify what are the reasons that are driving customer centricity today and has been driving for the last few years, but why has it become very important? We all know that our lives have changed dramatically in the recent past, and things have changed. Many of these would become new normal, and customer centricity probably will become more focused in the years to come. Also, I'm going to talk a little bit about the convergence that I see happening in some of the domains that we believe are distinct, but they're not really distinct. They're converging big time, whether it's digital marketing, sales, or customer relationship management. And the purpose of any customer centricity approach is to develop a value proposition for the customer, develop mutual value, and what's the customer, and get some customer commitment. And so what's the value constellation that we should think about? And finally, how do we align the organization to reach the peak? We got to get the entire organization working towards the customer value creation. So how do we get the entire organization? What transformations are needed? What are tactical interventions and what are transformational interventions? So that's going to be the focus of my discussion. And obviously, I'll probably go through some of the presentation of mine, and hopefully you will engage in more discussions with your questions and criticisms as well. So we all know that customers are the center of all business decisions. That's what customer centricity is all about. When we say what is customer centricity, basically for all the decisions for the organization, customer is the center focus. Whether we develop the customer insights and do product development, or the manufacturing process for that, or the procurement process, or develop the marketing communications to be able to get to the customer to probably get interested in what we have to offer, or the relationship that we manage with the customers, and whatever we measure, and the business innovation that we undertake, all are with the customer in mind. I do not have to tell to you why it is so important. This has been a factor that has been going on since the 1960s, where we have been talking about customer being very important, but it never really happened till the late 90s, and now in the current decade or the decade just before that. Actually, it is now becoming more realistic compared to in the past. In the past, we talked about the customer focus, but we were never able to completely change the organization simply because the way in which the organization was developing. So why is customer-centric important? When we say we need to think about customer to be at the central focus for everything, first and foremost, it gives competitive advantage. When you are with the customer and you understand the customer, and the customer and you have a greater degree of understanding for each other, there is competitive advantage. Also, customer centricity mobilizes the teams. It becomes a rallying cry for entire organization. Whenever we know that customers have an issue and customers have a need, then the entire organization can be rallied behind it. And the purpose is very clear. The purpose is to create mutual value. Value for us and value for the customer. And if people are engaged and valued, then they will make the customer feel valued too. So in other words, customer centricity is not merely the function of the marketing and sales or customer support people, but it is for the entire organization. So let me give you the reasons as to why customer centricity has been one of the factors that has been emerging and what's driving all that. So I say there are four forces that have been driving customer centricity. First and foremost, it has been the changing customer expectations. And I'll elaborate on that in a minute. So customer expectations are dramatically different today than it was earlier. Second factor is also the market space that we operate in is not anymore as distinct as it used to be in the past. There are lots of convergence of industries. There's lots of overlap. And again, I'll elaborate in a few seconds. Also, marketing productivity has also been in a crisis. As many people have commented and said, the marketing is the most unproductive function in the organization. Highly inefficient, highly ineffective, lot of wastage. So that has also led towards rethinking in terms of how we need to do our marketing. And above all of these has been technology advances that are leading us towards customer centricity. So let me take each one of these separately. From the point of view of customer expectations, we all know this now, that every customer wants more, better, faster, cheaper. The demand in customer service and individualized care has become paramount. There was a time when you could treat all customers equally. Today, every customer wants an individual care, and they want customer service 24/7. Everybody expects you to be able to provide them 24/7. Gone are those days when the shops used to open and offices used to open only between 10 and 5 o'clock, or in a bank, 10 to 2, 10 o'clock to 2:30 in the afternoon. After that, people are on the golf course somewhere else. So things have changed. We expect 24/7, whether it's a day, morning, night. Everybody wants individualized care. Customers are not buying products anymore. They're actually buying solutions. They never used to buy products anyways, but we used to think that they bought products. But now, given the choices, things have changed dramatically, and every customer is seeking a solution, and that solution may have to be individualized. Also, customers prefer proactive and knowledgeable partners, not just product suppliers. So if you're providing solution, you've got to have the expertise, and that expertise has got to be quite different. Just to give an example, some 3 decades ago, we used to think that the most effective salespeople were those who had a great personality and very good product knowledge. That got changed about 2 decades ago when we realized that the importance is there in building customer relationship. However, if you fast forward it in today's world, then you realize that customers actually know about the product. They don't want the salesperson to come and tell them about the product. By a click of a button, I can find out about the products. So it's not that what I need from a salesperson. We want the salespeople to be those who can research the customer's business and be knowledgeable about the customer's business rather than knowing about your own products. So things in today's world, everything is where customers know a lot more. Hence, the salesperson or the marketer have got to understand the customer's business and be able to solve the problem. Also, most customers expect suppliers and channel partners to have one face of the company, indicating that distributor is not a separate person from the organization. If there is a distributor, if there is a retailer, or if there is a customer support person or somebody else, we expect everybody to have the same face. Like in the automobile industry that you see a lot more prevalent today, where whether you're a dealer of a car, an automobile, let's suppose for Toyota, no matter who you are, if you're representing it, you're representing Toyota. So customers do not expect that an independent retailer or a distributor or a dealer is going to be anybody different from the main organization. So customers' expectations have become a lot more challenging today. Also, another factor about the customer. In the past, we marveled in the idea of the normal curve, the bell curve. We used to believe that most customers are homogeneous. In the middle, there are a few outliers. In today's world, we realize it's not actually a bell curve, but it's a well curve. There is nobody in the middle, actually. Either customers are value seekers at one end, or they are the same customer or other customers who are buying the luxury products. In fact, the same customer who goes and buys in Louis Vuitton also goes and shops in a Walmart or in a Flipkart or somewhere else. So the customer actually, is either spanning from one end to the other end, or most customers are one end or the other end. And as you see, because of this, many retailers have failed in the last many years. Those who are in the middle, anybody who remains in the middle, in my opinion, will get squeezed and will be out of the business. It has happened to so many companies, from Sears, Roebuck to you hear every day about the big retail apocalypse, which has been happening. Because in the spectrum of things, middle is no position, really speaking. You really are not going to succeed in the middle. So that has changed also because of the changing customer expectations. The second dimension, which is our second force that is driving customer centricity, is the shrinking market space. We are all familiar with intense competition. And in this intense competition, unless and until you are closer to the customer and you understand the customer's business, you will be pushed out. Markets have become much more mature, but at the same time, the markets have become very overlapping. There is no more a separate telephone company and a separate music company and a separate camera company. The same person is in the camera business, is also in the business of computing, almost is in the business of what you call the telephony. And actually most telephone companies, mobile service companies are also bankers. They do most of the payment transactions. So if you think about it, the overlapping industries have become dramatic. So you cannot really have a product space focus. There isn't any room for a product space focus. You have got to move towards thinking about the customer. So new players, new products, new marketing approaches are coming every day. And there is tremendous amount of consolidation and amongst customers and competitors. And to the extent that, not only the technologies are converging, but it is creating all new types of business models. As we know, for example, in India, DBS Bank from Singapore has not a single branch. It operates 100% digital. So there are many transformations that are taking place. I still remember, one time making a comment, let me go ahead and make this comment. It is several years ago when the State Bank chairman used to be Mr. Janki Balla. I had an opportunity to speak to the chairman and the managing directors and deputy managing directors of State Bank for a one-day workshop. And my initial comment kind of probably was a little rattling for everyone, because I said that I don't understand banking industry. However, I mentioned that I won't be surprised if the biggest competition for State Bank of India at that time, I said, was in 5 to 10 years, might be somebody such as Sahara Grameen Bank. And everybody was kind of had an awakening question. And the reason why I said this was, I said that, 5 years ago, if I'd asked any one of those people in these banks, none of them would have ever told me that the biggest competition for them would have been ICICI Bank or HDFC Bank or a Yes Bank, etc., because they were not on the radar screen. Quite often, competition comes not from your radar screen, often comes from some other dimension. And think about it, in the banking industry or State Bank of India or much of the public sector banks used to take pride in the fact that they have got 10,000 or 12,000 branches all over the nation. But who needs the branches now? With optical fiber and with the digital world, the para bankers from Peerless or from Sahara can go to all the village people and do handle banking, or the consumer can do it themselves. So in many ways, competition comes to you from directions that is not on your radar screen. So the rest of the assets are not as important as your customer asset. The third factor that is driving also customer centricity is the fact that marketing has been quite unproductive. We all hear this, and Mr. Nitin Bhagwat has just joined. He would attest to the fact that the famous saying of I think Mr. David Ogilvy, that we all know that of the two types of advertising, one half does not ever work, right? The problem was we don't know which half does not work. So above the line or below the line. So marketing, advertising use is one of those very highly unproductive functions. And so has been all the promotions that have been run. You know, you all hear about coupons. In the US, 2 billion coupons or 3 billion coupons are distributed every year. Redemption rate is less than 0.5% or 1%. All the people who spend all the money in terms of the direct mail campaigns, you know, if their what you call conversion rates or even response rates exceed 1 to 2%, they're all rejoicing it. Nobody asked the question, what happened to the 98%? Just 2% productivity and they're happy with it. So marketing has been very unproductive in many ways. And therefore, marketing has been questioned. And hence, because we were focused on in terms of, we have a product and we got to advertise and sell it. Never focus from which customer to really focus on and which customer is going to buy it. So quite a few things, you know, have of course undergone change nowadays, where we found a lot more responsive marketing going on. Think about this: selling without sales force. You know, we have so many sales force. How many sales force does Amazon have? And in a current world, selling without sales force is one of the most common things which is happening. So are we really productive in the way in which we do things? So individual knowledge of customers is very important. And Amazon, for example, depends heavily on its analytical capability of both predictive as well as prescriptive analytics. And they have a very good understanding of the anticipated, what you call, needs of customers. But above all of this, the thing that has changed our way of thinking in the world are the technological changes. And I'm going to look at it more broadly from what has happened from the 60s, 70s, and therefore what is playing out now. Most of our knowledge, etc., and thinking was based on initially the electromechanical thinking, the variable cost and the fixed cost issue. You know, we used to think that there is a fixed cost and then there is a variable cost. But in today's digital world, everything is fixed cost. There is no variable cost. The cost of, you know, copying a software is zero. Or the cost of getting an additional customer, if I send a satellite up in the sky to run a mobile services, it doesn't matter whether I have one customer or 500,000 customers. My cost is one and the same. So a lot of pricing models have got to change because of that. So the digital technology, of course, is very rapidly changing, which means you don't have long product life cycles. Even before a product is made, a computer is made in the factory, by the time it gets out of the factory, it's already obsolete. It's not only the computer, but now computers are everywhere, even inside the automobile. All the supply chain problems that we are hearing about in the case of automobiles today is because automobiles are so full of computers, and then you need the chips. And if by any chance chips are not available, automobiles cannot run. So we are not in the electromechanical world, we are in the digital world. So in the digital world, as products are dependent on digital, it is a very fast changing industry. When it's very fast changing industry, the customer is not going to keep the product for a very long period of time. So if you're focused on selling products, your products are going to become obsolete, both from the technology standpoint, as well as obsolete from the consumer usage point of view. Consumers want to upgrade to something else. So unless and until you have a relationship with the customer, wherein you can periodically replace things with the customer, you will not really have the efficiencies going. Also, you know very well, imagine a world when not many years ago, when IBM used to sell the computer boxes and the service used to come free. In today's world, the boxes come free and the service is what you pay for. People are not paying for equipment, people are paying for service. we have already shifted a lot to the subscription model for almost everything. In the service economy, service dominant economy, things are quite different. And the good news is the service industry usually has a lot more data and information, unlike in the product case. In the product case, we didn't have as much information on the usage or on the billings and other things. But now the service industry has a lot of information about the customer that can be leveraged. So increasingly, this has changed a lot of things. Also, for example, in the digital versus the electromechanical world, in the electromechanical world, you could do penetration pricing and hope that over a period of time, I'll recover my money because I will get the market share and I will have a long cycle by which I'll recover the money. But in the digital world, because the products become so obsolete so quickly, you have got to recover all your R&D costs as quickly as possible. So market penetration and sequential marketing from one territory to the other territory will yield you nothing. You will have to do concurrent worldwide marketing at the same time, which means concurrently worldwide, you need to have the customers ready for you. That means you need to anticipate customers and have a relationship with them and be customer focused. So a lot of these things have changed, as we all know. So which is all impacting things. So on looking therefore at this portion of the drivers, I'm just going to summarize that to say that marketing and sales is transforming because of those forces. It has transformed from product and service offering to solution selling. It has transformed, which we know for last several decades, from every buyer depending upon multiple suppliers at one time. Industrial buyers particularly used to do vendor development for the purpose of getting as many suppliers there. And we all know that none of the companies now want a lot of vendor development. They have preferred partners so that they can work with the partners so as to reduce long-term costs rather than look at the short-term aspect, which means you have to have stronger relationship with your partners, both supplier partners and customer partners. Third, all of us know that there was a lot of focus earlier on customer acquisition. But in today's world, it's not merely the customer retention, but more importantly, it is how can I develop the business of the customer? Developing the customer's business is our business. It's not a matter of just selling to the customer, but your customer is your market maker. And so the market maker if you can help the market maker grow, your business grows, especially in the partnering world. So it's shifted from acquisition to customer business development. And that has led to many companies changing their organization. And we know this from market segmentation to customer segmentation. One of the most important aspects of customer centricity is the understanding that not all customers are equally valuable. They are all valuable, but they're not equally valuable. And therefore, we need to look at the customers from their value perspective, given their strategic value as well as their financial value. So value becomes very, very important, and customer segmentation based on value and potential value is very important, not merely the prospective buyers as market segmentation. The other aspect is that it's not, salespeople used to take pride in individual relationship. People believe that I've got a personal relationship with the customer. Like in the pharma business, the medical representative thinks that they have got a relationship with the doctor. The problem is that when relationship is based on people, when people walk away, relationships walk away, whether it's the salesperson or it is the buyer side. So when buyers, you develop a good relationship with the purchase manager, and we know that in every organization, there will be a job rotation, there will be promotions, etc. The buyer will move. And when the buyer moves, the relationship has moved. So if you depend upon personal relationship alone, then your relationship is going to be short-lived. Therefore, it is very important to hardwire the relationship. It is extremely important to institutionalize the relationship. And institutionalizing the relationship is only possible when the entire organization of yours and the entire organization of the customer has some ways of connect. So flipping the organization to have a cross-functional relationship where your IT people and their IT people, your finance people and their finance people, your accounting people, their accounting people, your R&D person with their R&D people, they all have some connects. So that when individuals move out, the relationship don't walk away. So one of the critical things is how to institutionalize and hardwire the relationship. And also in the past, we used to focus a lot on process management. Today, it is all about value co-creation. So unless and until you make customer your central piece, you cannot do the co-creation. So co-creation, that means together with the customer to create value. And from customer satisfaction, we have moved already towards greater customer engagement and commitment. How do you get the customer to commit and create a mutual commitment? If you are planning to invest in the customer says, I will make also commensurate investment. So can we get to the mutual commitment? I've done a substantive amount of work with many companies in terms of making sure that whenever we design a program, it is not a one-way street. We are not just providing value to the customer. We promise to the customer, we'll do this, provided you make this commitment too. So it's a commitment for co-creation and co-value. And that becomes very, very important. Okay. There is also an interesting thing which is happening. The nature of customers is changing. We all know this. The customers are engaged on so many social media channels today. The same customer is there on LinkedIn, is on Instagram, is on Twitter, is on Snapchat, is on YouTube, in Wikipedia. So customers are not the same as what you used to think, that they're only there, one-way thing. Customers are actually interacting with a lot of people through the digital tool, and they create their own networks. So when you have got to look into a customer, it's not only looking into a single customer, but the customer is in a network. They're connected with each other in a variety of ways. And as they are connected in a variety of ways, they can block you from the network, or they can give you access to the network. Thinking of customer networks is very, very important to understand this. Customers have a whole range of networks in which they operate. And gaining access to the network, engaging with the customer network, customizing it to the network, connecting with it, and collaborating with the network is going to become extremely important. And when I look into this, that's where I say the convergence is taking place. All three, sales, customer relationship management, digital marketing, customer support, all have got to converge. Let me back up for 1 second to say one more thing here. In the past, there used to be 3 different functionalities, and even today it is there in most companies. You have the marketing organization, you have the sales people, and you have the customer support. All 3 more or less operate in their own silos. The problem is that marketing people, because a majority of them are MBAs, they think they have a chip on the shoulder. So marketing look down upon the sales because they have come from this higher degrees, right? The salesperson, on the other hand, they don't have to come with most salespeople did not have the same kind of sophisticated academic degrees, but they're all street smart. And they're street smart, they know actually what the customer is telling them, what the customer buys. So the marketing people sitting in their ivory tower would look into the sales and say, oh, I have a lot of knowledge about prospective customer. And the sales will say, well, I know the actual buyer. I'm dealing with the actual customer. You're sitting there in the ivory tower and telling me things. So there's a lot of tension between them. And then there's a third group, the customer service group or customer support group, which more or less is considered to be untouchable by anyone who is sophisticated, who wants to go and work in customer service. How many CEOs have come through customer service in there, if you think about it? So customer service has always been kind of a neglected child for people, sophisticated people. So nobody talks to the customer service to get the customer insight. Now think about this. Marketing knows prospective customer, they don't know the actual buyer. Sales knows the actual buyer, but who knows the user? The user who actually matters is only known to the customer service people. When the user calls the customer service people, but the knowledge does not get integrated. So one of the biggest challenges is within the organization and within the so-called customer-facing organization, there is not enough integration that takes place. So one of the aspects of customer centricity is to be able to integrate that. Fortunately, with all the CRM software tools, there has been data-led integration, which is now beginning to happen. But that integration is not sufficient. There is a lot more transformation needed. So transformation, which is needed, I'm going to come to that in a few minutes. I'm going to stay for a few more seconds to talk about this digital world of customers. Customers, in the digital world, what are they doing? They're using the digital and social channels to, number one, go and search and learn and buy brands. That means I'm not going to ask the salesperson, but I can do it online. I can easily search, I can easily learn, I can easily buy brands. So selling without Salesforce, as I mentioned to you, is pretty easy. Buying without having a salesperson. And customers do that, all of you are doing it today in today's world. Customers also share experiences and opinions with peers within their network. Go and look into any of the sites, whether it's a TripAdvisor or anything else, the reviews and what recommendations, people are sharing their experiences. We are sharing our experiences on Twitter, on Facebook, on all of it. And even to the extent that people are sharing experiences, both positive and negative, in a hurry. They can advocate a brand or bash a brand. I'll give you a typical example. I have done it myself. Particular hotel in Bombay, I got so pissed off at the what you call check-in counter that even before I entered the room, I wrote on TripAdvisor a negative. Okay, even the cow has left the barn by that time. You can't really fix it. And as you know, if you understand the hotel industry pricing, the moment there are a couple of negative comments, your room rate prices are going to drop right away. Okay, so it has an immediate impact on the business. So in today's world, what customers are doing is customers are realizing their power and they're advocating or bashing brands right away. And many of them are also engaged in brand communities. So whether it is a BMW club or whether it is a Harley Davidson club or other brand communities, or whether people are on what you call the one of the beauty channels, etc. There are plenty of people in brand communities talking about things. In fact, there are a number of influencers who are actually not real people. So in today's world, Instagram, one of the most popular influencers is a virtual influencer. So we are dealing with virtual influencers also. And everybody in today's world wants 24/7 customer service. And on top of that, not only are we buying brands, because of the democratization of technology, customers can compete with the brand by doing it themselves. Look at the number of millions of entrepreneurs in China selling beauty homemade products. So the same customer can be your customer and could become your competitor by doing it themselves. It is happening on food channels, it's happening almost everywhere. So in other words, customers can be drivers or competitors of brands. We have to therefore think very carefully. So the point is, knowing the customer's business is most important today. Understanding the customer and knowing the customer's business is extremely important. Otherwise, you'll be stuck. Therefore, if we are going to become customer-centric, what are we trying to really achieve? What do we really want? What we want is value creation. Obviously, we want a value creation. We want greater commitment from the customer. It's not only about sales, but it's given the fact that we don't even know what product we're going to sell today, but we want a greater commitment. And to achieve the greater commitment, there are two important dimensions. One dimension is you got to partner with the customer. Number two is you have to proactively help develop the business of the customer. So it's not merely anticipating needs of customers, but it goes a step beyond that. You have anticipated the needs, you have come up with a formula of how you will help develop the business of the customer. And the more you develop the business of the customer and more you partner with them, the greater is the mutual value, mutual commitment. So this value to be created, the question is, what kind of value can we create and what value constellation can we offer? I have, based on my research and based on my working a number of, I've done a number of projects based on this. After analyzing a lot of things, I came to the conclusion that in addition to the functional value that any company's product service offers, a company has an opportunity to create value at least in 7 different dimensions for any customer. So when customers buy, not only are they buying the functional value of, let's suppose, a computer or a phone or a tea or anything else, but they also are buying a number of other things. Every customer also wants economic value, whether it is pricing, whether it's financing, whether it's trade-in offer, whether it's free equipment. That's an economic value. So customers also want economic value in addition to things. Second, customers also want conditional value. That means they want the terms to be such where there is value for me. Don't create terms of engagement that are so difficult for me that I don't want to do business with you. So the terms may range anywhere from the usage terms to the delivery terms to the tech support terms or warranties, guarantees. All those are part of the conditional value. So how you provide the conditional value. The third thing customers want is service value. What unique services can you provide to me? Will you have a dedicated team to take care of me? Would I have a preferential line of communication to talk to you? I'm your most valued customer. What are you going to do in terms of service for me? So customers buy service as well. Customers also buy information. Information is very, very important because, it could be an expertise information, it could be very high-level strategic information, business-related, or could be very mundane type of information. To give you an example of all the things that American Express corporate card, so they provide as services, you'll be surprised to know when we did a research to find out what do customers value the most. And what we found out was the customers valued the quarterly statement given by American Express on the expenditure the most. Reason being that most of the corporate card holders are small business people. When they get the quarterly statement, they don't have to do any accounting. They can give it straight to their accountant for tax purposes. And that's the most valuable thing. So sometimes it could be as mundane information value, or it could be very sophisticated value in terms of where there's business opportunity, etc. Customers also want developmental value. Are you going to develop a product for me? Are you going to help market development for me? Is there a specific project that you will develop for me? Or you will develop my skills or my capabilities or my people training? So developmental value is huge for many customers. Customers also want social emotional value. What can you do from a social point of view? Can I feel great about it? Will I get privileged service? Will I be involved in your advisory board? What status do I get? Can I feel like I'm a part of your organization too, or you're giving me a special status? And will I be recognized for that? And then finally, customers also want strategic value. Can I hobnob with Mr. Bill Gates because Bill Gates is part of your organizational network? Can I get a strategic value because of that? Or is there a specific capability enhancements because of your knowledge and expertise? Or will you offer me a platform for growth on your network? So there are many ways in which strategic value can be achieved. I want to give you an example to bring this home. Is it okay if I give an example?
Oh, sure, doctor.
I'm going to give you an example of, because I'm allowed to speak, so I'm going to speak this one Coca-Cola Company case. You know, it's an old one, so I've been given the permission to speak. So in year 2000, I got a call from a senior vice president from Coca-Cola Company. Darrell Thomas is a very good friend of mine now. So he called me to say, I want to speak to you. Can you come by? So I asked him, tell me what's the reason. He said, no, come by. So I went to him and he explained he was the vice president for international for Burger King. Now, Burger King as a customer of Coca-Cola is a big customer. If you do not know what's the value of that customer, the annual revenues from Burger King is over $5 billion, just to understand this, okay? So it's a market by itself. Or McDonald's is a $10 billion customer. Or Walmart is a $5 billion customer for Coca-Cola. So these are customers which are huge. So what Darrell Thomas told me was that in 1999, Coca-Cola and Burger King entered into an exclusive agreement for the United States for 10 years, where Burger King would exclusively carry only Coca-Cola products, not Pepsi or any other competitor products. But the deal for international was only 3 years. So in 1999, this was the deal. Mid of 2000, Darrell Thomas calls me and said, look, this was the deal. On the international side, I've already spent 1.5 years. Very soon, my 1.5 years will be showing up. So I need to get my next 3-year contract. So what do I do? So my first reaction to him was, you want the next 3-year contract or you want the next 7-year contract to match with domestic? So obviously he said, yeah, I want my next 7 year. So we asked the question and said, okay, how can we go to Burger King and show them value of partnering with us? So this, Coca-Cola by itself is a product, but in addition to that, just let me also back up for one other thing, just to kind of, for those of you who may not know, that in McDonald's, you see the McDonald's, they have this meal. You will be wondering who came up with the idea for the meal. It wasn't McDonald's, it was Coca-Cola Company. The Happy Meal or the meal was all kind of Coca-Cola thought through, because Coca-Cola realized if you bundle things together, they'll be able to sell more Coke. But anyways, so here is the situation. So what Darrell Thomas said was that what he will do is he is going to bring in all his international executives from various markets for a workshop in the headquarters and ask me to conduct a workshop. And you would understand that as big a customer as Burger King is, internationally in the management level, there are over 90 people at that point in time who were working on Burger King. So 1/3 of those people, or slightly more than 1/3 of those people, were brought into Atlanta for their own annual meeting and one-day workshop. So I'm giving you the example of how to play this out. So I asked the following 3 questions to the executives of Coca-Cola who were working on Burger King. My first question to them was, what is the objective of Burger King? What is Burger King trying to achieve? Okay. Not a difficult question to answer, because objectives are already laid out also in the annual plan of Burger King. So that was an easy question. Second question, what strategies is Burger King trying to follow in order to achieve its goals and objectives, to fulfill its objectives? Also not very difficult, because strategies are also given in the annual plan. Okay. So we listed down the objectives of the customer, the strategy of the customer. However, my third question was the one which is most difficult. And the third question was, why would Burger King not be able to achieve its objectives or execute the strategy? In other words, what problems is it facing because of which it will not be able to fulfill its goals? And you should know this because they are your customer. So we listed down all the problems that Burger King is facing. Then we went in to say, okay, here is the 7 benefit model that I kind of call it. I call it my 7 benefit framework, these 7 customer value constellation things. And I said, let's think through this and say, what can we do from an economic standpoint to alleviate the problem of Burger King and help them achieve their goals? What can we do from a conditional standpoint? So we went through all these 7 to identify different ideas that can be used for the purpose of helping Burger King really solve the problem. What solution can we provide? So we came up with 72 different ideas. These were ideas that they were either doing it already in bits and pieces, not in an organized manner, and some ideas that they thought through. But after going through the 72 different ideas, the team was able to kind of pare it down and say, well, there were some overlaps, etc. So came up with 44 ideas that looked really plausible. So once we had the 44 different ideas from this framework, the next question was, how do we go and evaluate which of these is really going to be appropriate? So simply stated, 2 things have to be considered. One is, we think these are great ideas, but that's what we think. Does the customer think it is valuable? So in other words, what is the perceived value of that idea in Burger King's mind? That's one dimension. It could be high or low. Second is, internally, how complex or easy will it be for us to deliver that value? Right? So obviously you can understand, you do not want to do things that are low in value to the customer and high in complexity for you. That really means anything that falls in that category, not worth considering. Those ideas that actually fall in the category of low complexity for you, but high in value for customer, that's your low hanging fruit, right? It's easy for you to do it and customer thinks it's very valuable. And those that might be high in value, but high also in complexity, may be strategic drivers. You may still want to consider and do it because those are strategic drivers. So when I suggested the way in which to evaluate it, my friend Darrell Thomas challenged me. He said, wait a minute. Why only complexity for us? What about the complexity for my competition, Pepsi, to do it? If it's easy for me, Pepsi, it's easy for Pepsi too. Then they'll copy me. And what about the complexity for Burger King to do it? Burger King might turn around and say, well, I can do it myself. I don't need you. Then what? So what we did was we cascaded the entire analysis on value to the customer, complexity for us, complexity for competition, and complexity for customer to do it. So the best solutions are those that are high in value to the customer, low in complexity for us, high in complexity for the competition, and high in complexity for customer. So we came up with a neat 4 set of what you call ideas. First idea was, one set of ideas were the fact that, if you go to Burger King tomorrow and say, oh, give me the next 3-year contract, I'll give you all these great things. Burger King will turn around, look to you and say, I already gave you 3 years, what did you do? Right? So you can't go to the customer and say, oh, only if you give me the contract, I'll give you this value. We need to demonstrate some value. So Coca-Cola is a master in stewardship. So the first set of ideas was that in the next 1.5 years, we got to do this now. And so that we have got something to go and show to the customer and say, look, you gave us the contract, here's what we have executed for you. And here's the value that we produce. Now there's a next set to say, now if you give us the 7-year contract, we'll also give you this, second set. And last time you squeezed the price on us, if you give us the price we were looking for, we'll get the third one as well to you. So give us the price, we'll give you even that. And by the way, it costs a lot of money to do this. If you're willing to share some cost with us, we'll also give you the fourth. So it becomes a negotiating template. I'm giving you this example, how this can play out this value. Same value framework, I've utilized it for the purpose of creating loyalty program for the bronze customer or the classic customer, the bronze customer. I did it for Shopper Stop when I was revamping the First Citizen Club program at Shopper Stop. So at different levels, you can think about the classic customer, the silver customer, the gold customer, the platinum customer, what to do. So it's a very useful way thinking process, which I thought I'll walk you through from a value proposition. Did it make any sense?
It did. Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
So now in terms of becoming customer-centric as is really an organizational journey. It's not only a customer value proposition, it's a complete organizational journey. It starts with the basics. It starts with the mission. Why we are doing this business, the whole idea about our business and how we can integrate the customer into our mission, into our vision, and into our strategy. And all wrapped around with, of course, the core values. So when I look into the entire customer centricity point of view, you can consider it under various interventions. One intervention is at the people level. That means you build the people competencies, which is often to the high touch. It's usually an HR initiative by which we train our people to become customer-centric, customer thinking, very customer-oriented. That's a high-touch approach. Good hotels, etc., do that. Service industry often uses that as one of the prime drivers for that. And it's very useful too. The second approach that we all follow is a technology deployment, high-tech approach. Oftentimes CRM tools, etc., is a CIO initiative most of the time. And it's high-tech. The third approach is the customer value proposition approach, which is a marketing approach. Value offerings, which I just described to you in a few seconds ago. That is more towards, not only the high touch and high tech, but customer value proposition. What am I, the other two are internal focus. High touch is internally focused because you're trying to build your people competencies. What is in it there for the customer? Only in the interaction. Technology you're deploying inside. What is in it for the customer? But when it's a value proposition, you're developing it for the customer. You can go to the customer and say, this is the value proposition we'll offer. And then there is a customer-driven policies and program, which is an experiential side of it. Can I make the customer not only get a value offer, but every experience throughout the organization is going to be an outstanding experience. Whether it is mobile on the mobile side that you come in, or whether you are on my app, or whether you are coming to my store, or whether you're interacting with whosoever you're interacting with, it's a complete experiential side. And finally, the most important one is, can it be an entire reorientation of the company? Can we flip the entire company where for everybody, customer is important? It is also the R&D head who needs to go and talk to the customer. The HR head needs to go and talk to the customer. The finance person should also be talking to the customer. Everybody should be talking to the customer. And I'll give you an example of this one, if I may. Several years ago, one of my former students, who's now in Spain, is a CEO of another company, but when he was, he called me from New York. He was working with a pharma company called Roche. And he called me from New York saying, Professor, I want to come and see you. I said, what happened? He said, no, I want to come and see you. Okay. He came by, we talked, and he told me a challenge. He had just been assigned the task to take care of the Mexican market. And many of you who are in pharma business know this problem, that in the pharma industry, the medical representatives are more or less like sophisticated couriers. They carry a bag full of samples and gifts and goes to the doctor. And they'll do the detailing, boom, 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 boom. And then the doctor says, what do you have? Oh, okay, here's a gift, here's a sample. Thank you very much. Now, that used to be tabletop gifts From tabletop gifts, the doctor started demanding little bigger gifts. So it became refrigerators, then the washing machines, and then the automobiles and other things. Of course, governments have got policies now in place to kind of not to let you do that. But Mexico, the problem he was saying was that the doctors have become so, they've been bribed so much that nobody is willing to write a prescription unless and until you give them a big gift. And he said, my company is not willing to do it. So how do I overcome this problem? So we started chatting, and then I said, and he kind of challenged me. He said, you're talking about all these customer business development and other things. So what can I do for customer business development? So we said, we need to think about the institutionalization of the relationship. Why should the relationship only be limited to the medical representative? How can we get the entire organization? And that means not only the regional managers, etc., sales people, but can we get the HR person to talk? Can we get the R&D person to talk to the doctor, etc.? So the question was, what can the HR person talk to a doctor about? So we said the most important question. The most important question is, who should represent to the doctor? Who should be the person that would be the medical? Think about it like this. If you involve the customer in the decision making of who the representative is, next time as a representative, if you as a doctor have suggested my name, next time I go to visit you, will you give me the time or not give me the time? So, and Rajesh, you can probably attest to that, right? So if you got the customer involved, they say so khun maaf, right? That, and so the whole idea was, can we involve the doctors in the decision making about which representative? So then he put the question to me, the challenging question. He says, well, what if in a particular territory, 5 doctors select one representative, another 5 select another one, another 5 select another one, then how will we do it efficiently? My question was, why do you need a geographic territorial based representative? Why can't we have this representative go to another 5 doctors in another territory who they like? So why do you have to be only, whatever you're saving money in travel, you're losing in the ineffectiveness. If 80% doctors don't like you in that territory, no matter how much travel costs you're saving, it's a loss. So we said, okay, we go and pilot implement it. He went to the company, he put the proposal there, and he was allowed to do the pilot testing on it. And the revenues jumped 300%. So when you kind of rethink things, there is a possibility to rethink it from flipping the organization, reverse the organization. Let the business of customer be everybody's business. It's not only the sales and marketing people's business. It is the business of everybody. And everybody has a role to play. Then only then inside the company, they will be advocates of the customer. So it's very important in a customer, focus approach. Now, quickly, despite the pandemic, we all know that some companies have been great winners in the last few years. Their growth has been 3 times to 4 times their market cap. Whether you take Google's Alphabet, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Netflix, Nike, Target, Tesla, Zoom, they're all the winners. Some have struggled, some have not done well, particularly the hotel industry people, airline industry people, etc., or those who run movie theaters, etc., are all struggling. But here are some companies, the pandemic actually boosted their sales. So is it only the pandemic that boosted the sale? Is there something else that they have been doing? What's the common theme by which one can identify these winners? Here are some common themes. All these companies have a high customer engagement, but low customer touch. They're not depending on customer touch, but they're doing a high customer engagement. How? Through digital delivery mechanism, with very low degradation in experience. That means their digital experience is pretty good, extremely good. Right? So, and they've all used high customer engagement. So it's not a people-based, it has been always a high customer engagement with low customer touch. And all their models are efficient, scalable, and repeatable revenue model. All these companies. Very efficient, very scalable, very repeatable. And all of them use feedback mechanism for continuous improvement. Amazon has become a master of that. The whole approach of Amazon is working backwards. And they're using working backwards, they have completely transformed many, in the marketplace. And all of them have got very compelling both customer acquisition and retention approaches. So all these winners have some common themes. The winners also have, interestingly, a very customer or a user-centric approach. It's not a product-centric approach. The product-centric approach is, what does the product do? The user-centric approach is, what do we need to solve? The product-centric approach is, how will it work? The user-centric approach is, why will it be used? Or the product-centric approach is, how much will it cost to make? User is, how much value will it create? The thought process is quite different from product to user or customer-centric. And that needs a thought process change. And in order to achieve this customer centricity, therefore, a number of organizational processes have to be put into place. First and foremost, the investment in enhancing customer experience journey. We have to really remember in today's world, the customer's journey is omni-channel. And throughout the channel, anything, it has got to be frictionless. It has got to be really that moment, every moment of interaction is a very important moment. And that moment can break things or can make things. So investing in the customer experience journey and enhancing it is one of the most critical ways to succeed, which would require many places. So anything which has got where the customer has any kind of a touch point, whatever it might be, it might not be through sales marketing people, it might be somewhere else in the organization. All of it need to be really enhanced. When it comes to people, we should think about hiring people for competencies and capabilities as well as their attitude towards customer, not really skills. Skills can be learned very quickly. Skills are not very difficult. Skills are practice oriented. But it is the competency, it is the capability, it is the ability to think and the attitude that goes with it, which is very important. Also, digital transformation is extremely important, no matter what we say. Because it helps in simplification and also a mobile first approach. Mobile first means not build the website first build the mobile. Because in today's world, every customer is working in the mobile. Even to the extent you are all familiar with the fact that things which we used to take pride in, let's suppose relationships were based on our human trait of memory, right? I know you, you know me, therefore there's a relationship. Where is memory today? From me to my handheld device. My memory has shifted here. Number two, human beings used to take pride in the fact that we got intelligence, human intelligence, our inborn trait. And that's how on the basis of intelligence, you and I could integrate. Where is intelligence gone? Artificial. Human beings used to learn. We used to learn about customer. We used to do things based on learning. Where is learning gone? Machine learning, externalized. Even human beings depended on the emotions. Even those emotions have gone to emoticons. So think about it, almost all the human traits have been taken away from the human and have been externalized into device. Technology is playing such an important role. So we really cannot ignore the technology interface. 90% of the human activity is gone somewhere else. And many of these companies are succeeding, they're mimicking the human. am I doing? I think I'm exceeding my time. Give me.
Oh, you'll have to tell us how much time do you have, Dr. Atul?
Okay. In
We
another
are all there.
I will be concluding in 2 minutes.
Yes.
Okay. So we need to deepen the core competencies and expand into adjacencies. Is very important. Also, as I said, align and flip the organization to make everyone responsible for customers, including vendors. Vendor is such an important part of it because the vendor represents you and you have to make the vendors your strategic partners. And also, as I said earlier, it's not a one-way street. The partnership means you get the customer to also commit. And one way to do that is create customer advisory board. Create ways in which the customer is involved inside the company. And that is one of the most important ways in which to do it. And then more or less, last but not least, the second last slide of mine, we need some cultural shifts to drive customer centricity, which means we have to have a culture to empower workforce that are interfacing with customers. We cannot be the best example that probably some of you know this, that the retailer in the US, Nordstrom, has a clear policy that if any person in the company, or any salesperson or anybody else, if they have to say no to a customer, they have to take the manager's permission. To say yes, they don't have to take anybody's permission. And what they realized was, why did they come up with the policy? Because they realized that ultimately, you piss off people, customers, and ultimately you end up saying yes to the customer, and it costs a lot of money. Might as well say yes right up front and not bear all the other costs. And Nordstrom has been known to even take returns of products that knowingly they know that was not even sold in Nordstrom to maintain the customer relationship. So empowering the workforce is one of the ways to do it. Also create and encourage customer advocates. You need to have inside the company almost everybody, or at least a whole bunch of people who advocate the customer. You need customer advocates. Only then a customer-centric organization can be driven. Establish a theme as to who we are and what we do here from a customer point of view. We are like for example, Xerox, its theme and tagline is, customer service, excellence in customer service. So everybody knows, okay, we are there to do customer service. Or 3M's tagline saying innovation. So everybody knows they've got to innovate on behalf of the customer. Define the way the business that creates differentiated experience. So make sure that it is well defined what is going to create the differentiated experience and how everybody in the organization has to operate. Connect every aspect of the organization with the customer. Extremely important, customer centricity. And almost every function should be mandated to periodically meet customers. Whether you're an accountant, whether you are a finance person or anybody else, every organization should have periodic meetings. CEO need to have at least 30% of the time. The leadership needs to have 30% of the time spent with customers and co-opt customers into customer advisory board. The keys to success are very simple. Just don't say it, live it. As I say, create KPIs, make them very visible and KPIs that are customer centric related. And frequent communication is also very, very important. Engage with your people, especially key leaders, and let everybody understand what the overall value for customer is. Align the priorities and be kind of result oriented. This is my last slide, I would say. So how do I see the future, in my opinion? What's going to be the next generation of sales marketing and CRM? I believe is going to be a two-dimensional shift. We have depended on the personalized relationship. That's got to shift to institutionalized relationship. And we have been so far heavily producer-controlled sales and marketing. Marketer is controlling the sales and marketing. I believe the next generation is going to be customer control. Customer is going to control the marketing. In any case, they do it in the modern digital world. So making a shift requires us to consider where the world is going to go. As I said, programs that are salespeople focused will all become virtual selling and sales CRM automation based. So things are going to in my opinion, is going to change. I hope I made some sense to you. In summary, as I said, customer centricity is an opportunity to create competitive advantage. There are many powerful tools available. It is itself by a powerful tool. You need to mobilize your teams to become customer centric, but leadership and communication is critical. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Parvatiyar, for an excellent presentation. I can see appreciation from Mr. Rajesh Sharma. And believe me, there's so many people who have said such wonderful words for the quality presentation which you made. And I remember what Mahatma Gandhi told us many years back, that customer is the king. And it's so true here. I have a few questions.
I have a different opinion, sir.
Yes,
customer
sir.
could be the queen also.
The customer could be the queen also. And there are a few questions in the chat box also. But then in the poll, sir, if you want to say a few words, over to you.
Fabulous presentation.
Absolutely.
Fabulous presentation, Professor. I think it made me realize how outdated I am over the years I've become in this the advent of the digital world. And but I suppose the principles that you outlined are extremely useful going forward. One question I have is that in India, government is one of the largest buyers, and they do their buying on L1 basis. Every tender is L1 and so on. So would it be worthwhile building relationship in such an environment where there is no mutual commitment or loyalty from the buyer? No matter what you do, every tender is awarded on the basis of L1.
Very good point. Certainly, from the governments are mandated to make it each of these tenders as an open tender. But anybody who's been in industrial business knows one thing: how to be in the bid and get the competition out of the bid. In other words, if you have not been involved in the RFP creation, then you will be out of the bid anyways. Or if you've not been involved in the process of setting the criteria for evaluation, and that criteria in your favor, you'll be out. So the relationship is built for two purposes. Purpose number one, to make sure that the RFP at the initial stage, because you understand the business, you are there, the RFP is done where you are not, you are qualified and your competition may be not qualified. I'm telling you from a very tactical point of view. And second is when the bid is, every bid is an evaluated bid, never the lowest bid. So we know this for sure. It's not the lowest bid, the lowest evaluated bid means there is a criteria. If the criteria importance is not in your favor, you have not done your homework, is what we tell all the industrial salespeople. So I would say relationship is needed even in government. For that purpose, there is a process, you can still get there, but you want to make sure that when the tender is being issued, the tender, your relationship has helped you in terms of shape the tender requirements, and subsequently your relationship has helped in terms of educating them about what should be the criteria. Without any hanky-panky, you can do that.
So true. Dr. Parvatiyar, how much time do we have? Atul, how much time do we have from you?
Okay, I am at best, I can give 6 minutes more.
All right, 6 minutes more. Now, I have a question. Can I ask you?
Sure, sir.
There's a very popular saying which suggests that
you can ask the question. I don't guarantee an answer.
No, I'm sure you have an answer. There's a very popular saying that suggests that I am not what I think I am what others think I am. And many a times the perception of businesses all over the world is completely different from what they are perceived by others. In fact, there was one Capgemini report which suggests that 75% of the business think that they are customer-centric, whereas only 30% of the customers feel that they are customer-centric. So what must be done to gauge from time to time whether an organization is customer-centric or product-centric, Atul? That's a question.
A very extremely good question, and it's got three angles to it. Somebody like Mr. Nitin Bhagwat will tell you that when it comes to brand, is not the brand image is different from your brand position. You may position your brand in a certain way. That doesn't mean that the customer perceives it the same way. The brand image is a resultant effect. The brand positioning is what the marketer does. Same is true for the organization. What you do versus what you are going to be perceived could be at odds with each other. So the organizational image may be very different from the processes. So the most important thing is, I was just reading a recent article, a political one, but a very important fact that is your marketing submerged? In other words, you may be doing a lot of things, but nobody is noticing that.
Very true.
On the other hand, there are people who may be doing a lot of publicity and people can see through and say, hey, this is all talk. So the balance between the submerged versus, over the top marketing is quite, so you have to do activities which is like a storyteller. A storyteller, what the storyteller does, a storyteller tells you the story I'm going to tell you first, then tells the story, and then comes back and says, this is the story I told you, right? So same way, it is if an organization must tell people, this is what we're going to do it, and go back and tell people, this is what we did. And it's not only to the customer. And I was mentioning to you earlier, one company that I have really admired in this respect is Coca-Cola. They are master of stewardship. Every person stewards the relationship, goes to the customer when they go there, they go with a clear analysis to say, this is the value that we produce to you, for you. Every meeting.
So it depends a lot on the culture of the organization also.
It's a part of the culture. Stewardship is an extremely important part of everything. How do you steward your relationship?
Absolutely. Brilliant. Any other question? There's one question in the chat box, Atul, which is from
Nitin Bhagwat has got
Nitin Bhagwat. Nitin Bhagwat. How can we get government agencies or organizations to become customer-centric?
He can unmute and ask the question.
Yeah, Nitin sir. Nitin bhai, you can ask the question.
Yeah. So I think we have read out the question, and the perennial problem that we have is government organizations are totally out of whack in terms of customer centricity. What is it that can be done to make them more customer centric? I mean, we do know about what is happening in India or abroad in terms of automation and digital to reduce friction between the government and the customer. But I thought Atul may have some lovely examples from across the globe.
Actually, I do have, to my utter surprise, when we always look into the lens from government not being customer centric, my experience in China was absolutely the opposite. I was working for a fitness equipment manufacturer, and I was meeting the sports management people in China. I was amazed by their approach and how they dealt with it. Same thing in Japan. The Japanese government people are extremely professional. So one reason why the Chinese, think about it like this, how did the Chinese manage to sell such a massive one road, project all over? That's not a small sales. Think about it. How big is a sale for this one road, initiative? All the countries they were able to sell all over. So, and it's all by government people largely. So there is something that the governments can do very well. It's not that governments cannot do well. And there are many programs in the US where the government does an extremely good job in terms of being customer-centric.
Right. Thanks.
Hello. Sorry. Rajesh bhai. Rajesh,
Yes,
would you like to say a few words?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Atulji, for such a nice presentation and and a live example. And I'm amazed the kind of knowledge you have for pharma industry sales representatives.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a a quick thing. Pharma is a very traditional kind of industry, and the examples which are normally given on the customer centricity and all that are mostly from FMCG or the new age industries like platforms. So in pharma industry, most of the companies have been trying to establish a direct contact, independent of the reps, and and they have failed. So any comments on that? What can be done to help companies, because we are a very manpower intensive industry.
Actually, when you look nowadays in the US, etc., they have tried to reduce the manpower a lot. Doctors prefer to do on the web the detailing, a lot more. So there are three ways in which in the case of pharma selling is happening. One, which you know very well, direct to consumer, which is advertising directly to consumer, getting the consumer to go to the doctor and say, can you tell me more about this particular drug, and write a prescription. So one way in which they have tried to bypass the whole thing is to try and go to the doctor, to go to the patient themselves and get the patients pull marketing, basically. Use the patients, get them. Second has been, salespeople, reduce the salespeople by creating a lot more virtual way in which you can do the detailing process with the doctors. And more doctors prefer that because they could do it in their own time. They could be sitting in their office and do it more personalized that way. The third one is what, I cannot share all the details, but the third one is some things I can share, what I did at Panacea-Biotec when I worked with Mr. Rajesh Jain. That was the key problem. I made this, I made this tongue-in-cheek remark to him also, saying that your medical representatives are sophisticated as couriers. I can get FedEx to do a better job than that. Okay. So credit to him, he said, come help me transform. So what we did was, we actually created a whole transformation in terms of, how do we really create value to doctors? We actually finally found out that the entire program could be anchored on three different things. One was in terms of continuing medical education. Second one was in terms of patient education. And third was in terms of doctors' clinic productivity enhancement. And every doctor is different. Some doctors are very economics-driven doctors. Some doctors are very patient-driven doctors. Some doctors are very knowledge-driven doctors. So we had, the job of the medical representative was to be able to map. We created a mapping way in which every doctor got mapped in terms of their dominant behavior. And that immediately we already created some sort of a expert system, which created what to offer to this doctor. So there was a time when the bosses could know which representative is right now detailing to which doctor, and therefore what program they're selling value-added program. And all could be witnessed in like a control room. So there are lots of possibilities in which you can have a high visibility on what's going on in the field. And you could also reduce the medical representatives, because that's a very, as I said, sophisticated courier, and there's a lot of wastage of time. So partner with some of the biggest doctors, at least those who don't need the reps. And one way to do that is get the doctors involved in your programs, in product development, in the process of other things planning, continuing medical education planning, patient education. For example, in patient education, what we did was, we actually, if there's a let's suppose a cardiologist you're going to. So there are many patient education material available in various sources. So we buy patient education material and we bookend it on both ends with a small little video clip of the doctor in the beginning and the doctor in the end. So in the beginning, the doctor is there who says, you're my patient, it's very important that you follow the regimen. Please watch this video to get the regimen and how you need to care. And then the standard material is available. And then at the end, the doctor comes back again and says, hope you followed this, you try and follow it. So we created this mass customized approach by which you can do patient education. Lots of doctors don't have the time for patient education at all. Absolutely. So patient education is a big factor there to do it.
Very nice.
Thank
Very
you,
nice.
Thank you very much for sharing that.
Yeah. We requested a few minutes from you, but we took a moon from you.
I
there's so much of-
absolutely have to go, sir. I'm so
Yeah, I
sorry.
know that, but thank you so much, Dr. Atul. And what wonderful examples of Burger King and Mexico, and now this particular example with the heavily loaded and extremely informative session as such. Thank you on behalf of our president, Dr. Kavita Lagate, Inderpal Singh, Dr. Rajesh Bhai, the member of the executive committee, and all other members of BMA. Would like to thank you, sincerely thank you for an excellent top class session, as expected.
Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Lovely
Bye, good night.
reconnecting.
Thanks. Nice to talk to you and nice to see you, Nitin.
Have a great day ahead. Bye. Take care.